My beloved child, tomorrow, August 19th, I want you to pause for a moment and listen with your heart, because there is something your spirit has been trying to bring to your attention about a person you already know. Do not rush past this message simply because the words feel unexpected. Do not skip because you think you already understand this person. Sometimes the people we think we know are carrying feelings, intentions, fears, regrets, or truths that they have never had the courage to reveal. I am not bringing this message into your life to create fear, suspicion, or unnecessary anxiety. I am bringing it as a gentle invitation to become more aware, more discerning, and more connected to the quiet voice within you. Tomorrow carries a reminder for you: not everything that is hidden is dangerous, and not everything that is silent means there is nothing happening. There are moments when a person can stand close to you while carrying an entire world inside them. They can smile while struggling, act distant while caring deeply, remain silent while thinking about what they wish they could say, or appear completely unaffected while their heart is wrestling with emotions they cannot explain. This is why I want you to slow down and observe rather than immediately judge. Your spirit has noticed something your conscious mind may have ignored. You may have felt a strange change in the way this person communicates with you. Perhaps their energy seems different. Perhaps they suddenly appear more often, disappear without explanation, look at you differently, or seem unusually interested in what is happening in your life. Maybe you have sensed hesitation whenever the conversation becomes personal. Maybe there are moments when they seem ready to tell you something and then pull back. You may have wondered whether you were imagining it. You were not necessarily imagining the change, but I want you to remember that intuition is not the same as fear. Fear rushes toward conclusions, wisdom observes patiently. Fear says, something terrible is happening. Wisdom says, let me understand what is really happening before I decide. Tomorrow, I want you to choose wisdom. There is something about this person that may surprise you, but the greatest surprise may not be what they have done. It may be what they have been feeling. Sometimes the shocking truth is that someone who seemed indifferent was actually deeply affected. Sometimes the person who appeared confident was secretly afraid of losing you. Sometimes someone who acted as though they had moved on was still carrying an unresolved emotional connection. Sometimes a person creates distance not because they stopped caring, but because they do not know how to handle what they feel. And sometimes, yes, the truth can be different from what you hoped. That is why I do not want you to build an entire story from assumptions. I want you to allow truth to reveal itself through actions, consistency, honesty, and time. My child, your spirit has become more sensitive because you are entering a period of greater awareness. You are beginning to recognize patterns that you once overlooked. You are beginning to notice how people make you feel after conversations, how their words match or contradict their actions, how often you are the one reaching out, and whether their presence brings peace or confusion. This awareness is not meant to make you suspicious of everyone. It is meant to help you stop abandoning yourself just to understand someone else. You have spent too much time asking, "What does this person feel about me?" and not enough time asking, "How does this relationship make me feel about myself?" Tomorrow, I want you to ask the second question. Because the blessing is not simply discovering another person's secret. The blessing is discovering your own truth. You may have been waiting for a sign from this person, hoping they would finally speak, finally explain, finally return, finally apologize, or finally admit what you have suspected for a long time. But hear this carefully, you do not have to chase a confession to receive clarity. Sometimes clarity comes when you stop chasing. Sometimes the moment you release the pressure, people reveal themselves naturally. When you stop trying to control an outcome, you become capable of seeing what is actually happening. Your spirit may be telling you that tomorrow is not about forcing a conversation. It is about paying attention. Pay attention to what feels peaceful. Pay attention to what feels forced. Pay attention to whether this person respects your boundaries. Pay attention to whether they show up when it matters. Pay attention to whether their kindness exists only when they need something or whether it remains consistent even when there is nothing to gain. These details can tell you more than 1,000 dramatic words. My child, there is another reason this message is reaching you now. You have been changing. You may not fully recognize how much you have changed because growth often happens quietly. The version of you that tolerated confusion is becoming tired. The version of you that constantly searched for reassurance is learning to trust itself. The version of you that needed someone else's attention to feel valuable is beginning to understand that your worth was never dependent on another person's decision. This is why certain relationships may feel different now. When you change internally, the same person can suddenly look completely different. Their behavior becomes easier to recognize. Their words become easier to interpret. Their absence no longer feels like a punishment. Their attention no longer feels like proof of your worth. And their rejection no longer has the power to define your identity. This is one of the greatest blessings I can give you: emotional freedom. Perhaps this person has been thinking about you more than you realize. Perhaps they have been replaying old conversations. Perhaps something about your recent behavior made them realize that they cannot keep taking your presence for granted. Perhaps they expected you to remain available forever, and now they are noticing that you have become quieter, stronger, and less willing to accept uncertainty. That realization can be shocking for someone who became comfortable with your constant availability. But remember, my child, you are not responsible for making another person comfortable with your growth. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to stop explaining yourself. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from situations that continuously drain you. You are allowed to love someone without allowing their confusion to become your lifestyle. There may be a person connected to this message who has been carrying regret. They may remember something they said to you. They may remember an opportunity they missed. They may remember a moment when they could have been honest but chose silence. They may have realized later that their decision had consequences. People often understand someone's value only after experiencing their absence. But I want you to understand something important. Another person's regret does not automatically create an obligation for you to return. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not always the same thing. You can forgive someone and still maintain distance. You can understand why someone behaved badly and still refuse to accept the behavior again. You can love someone and still choose yourself. This is not cruelty. This is maturity. Tomorrow, if this person suddenly appears in your thoughts, do not immediately assume it means they are destined to return. Instead, ask yourself what the thought is teaching you. Maybe you are remembering a lesson. Maybe your heart is finally processing something unfinished. Maybe you are recognizing how much you have grown since that chapter. Maybe you are being reminded of what you will never tolerate again. Your thoughts can carry information, but they should not automatically become instructions. Let your wisdom interpret them. There may also be something surprising about this person's own internal struggle. They may have been dealing with insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of commitment, fear of vulnerability, or the belief that they were not good enough for you. Sometimes people push away the very thing they want because receiving love requires them to become vulnerable. A person may desire closeness while simultaneously fearing what closeness demands. They may want you near while fearing the responsibility of treating you properly. They may miss you while refusing to admit it. They may watch from a distance because approaching you would force them to confront emotions they have avoided. But again, my child, do not confuse someone's internal struggle with a promise of future behavior. Understanding is valuable, but accountability is essential. If someone has feelings for you, let those feelings become honest communication and respectful action. You do not need to decode every silence. You do not need to become a detective in your own relationship. Healthy connection should not require you to constantly guess. Tomorrow, your spirit may be asking you to release the exhausting habit of reading between every line. Let people speak. Let people act. Let people show you who they are. You will learn more from what they consistently do than from what you hope they secretly feel. There is also a possibility that this person has been hiding something, not necessarily something harmful, but something emotionally significant. Perhaps they have not told you how much your presence affected them. Perhaps they have not admitted that they cared. Perhaps they have been comparing their current experiences with the connection they had with you. Perhaps they have realized that what they dismissed as ordinary was actually meaningful.